Hi everyone, and welcome to my studio. Today we're going to do a little painting with some butterflies, and so I've got my setup here, and I just want to talk first of all a little bit about the colours that I'm going to use, and also about how I came to come upon this design. This is what we're going to paint, and we're going to put a butterfly in the middle, and then we're going to surround the butterfly with a kind of garland of flowers and small butterflies, which are going to sit around the outside edge like that. And this design evolved. What I did was I found in a magazine, some pages with butterflies on. This is an old magazine. I think it goes back to about, well, it says here 2004, but it has some nice paintings of realistic paintings of butterflies. So I first of all, I did some paintings of them to try them out. These are my first ones, my exploratory paintings, which I think I showed you a little while ago. And then I left it for a bit to think about it. Then I made some photocopies of the pictures, and I've got them here, and I started to play around with arranging them on a page. And I thought I would do a whole page of about half a dozen of them or so, but then I changed my mind and I decided to focus on one butterfly in the middle and surround him or her with what I just described. So for this painting, I'm only going to use probably two colours, and those two colours that I'm going to use are going to be quinacridone gold, which is my go-to yellow, which I honestly think everybody should have in their palette because it's such a good mixer. And I'm going to be experimenting today and showing you how it works with French ultramarine. I usually use cobalt blue, which is this colour, which is a fresh, very attractive blue, and it makes lovely bright greens with quinacridone gold. So that is a really useful colour. I think those two are probably my favourites, but we can't always paint in the same colours, can we? So I have a tube of French ultramarine, which is slightly different from ordinary ultramarine. It really isn't very different. That's French ultramarine, and this is ultramarine deep. And I don't know if you can see a difference there. I think the French ultramarine is, you could say, brighter. So that's what we're going to use today. I think the ordinary ultramarine is really good for skies, especially if you use it with yellow ochre. But for what I want to do today, I think the French ultramarine is going to be better. So this is my paper. This is £90 watercolour paper, which is stretched onto a board. And because I'm going to be doing this kind of a design, I'm using the idea of having the butterflies cut out so that I can position them and do my design. So I'm going to do the sketch, and then I will come back to you and we'll start with the painting. Okay, so I've done the sketch, and I'll make this available for you to download from our website at dianeantone.com, and I'll put a link direct to that sketch in the description below the video. So if you go to the description below the video where it either says see more or read more, can't remember which, or there's a little downward arrow if you're on a mobile device, then you can see not only things like the links that we've got, but also a little bit of information about the materials I used in this painting or any painting that we do, plus links to Amazon and to Jackson's if you want to actually buy something as well, and the tip jar too. So anyway, so that's where you can find this. This is my basic outline. Don't know how it's going to go. So if we have to come in with ink at the end, we'll use our Staedtler pigment liner and give it some more structure. It depends how it works out. Not quite sure yet what's going to happen, but in order to try to predict a bit better, I'm going to, as I say, a limited palette, very limited palette, two colours today. That's all we're going to use. So it's going to be very muted and very low key. Or as they say in the artistic world, high key, which is the opposite to what you'd think it would mean, because that just means not much contrast, not much colour. Anyway, so I've just tried out a few blends here. So this is the ultramarine, French ultramarine neat, and that's dropped in wet to see how that was going to spread for the wings of the butterfly. Good idea to try that first. This is the green we're going to be using, which is quinacridone gold mixed with French ultramarine, so it's a very muted, soft green. And the yellow is also, obviously, this is the pure quinacridone, so that's going to be quite muted as well. So we're going to see how that goes. And yes, so let's get started. I'll move my water first of all because it's in the wrong place over there. Okay, so I think I'll start with the flowers. So I'll wet a little bit the flowers there, and then I'm going to pick up some quite strong quinacridone gold and just drop that in, leaving the paint to basically do the work. Sometimes I like to wet the paper first. Sometimes I just go ahead and paint straight in and keep my fingers crossed. So then we're going to take some blue, and I'm just going to put it at the base there, and I'm going to hope that it's going to mix and mingle a little bit with the gold. We'll see how that goes. I mean, this is really, like most painting, I mean, you don't really want to know what's going to happen, do you? Before you start. And so this is a completely off-the-cuff painting. So you're seeing me create and get frustrated with my chair. Feather to do a little bit of vein in there. Now the question is, do we carry on with all the leaves, or do we do butterflies and leaves alternately as we go along? And I'm thinking probably I'll do the leaves first, and that way they'll all be more or less the same colour. That is to say, not the same colour, but oh, you know what I mean. Saves wasting paint as well. People have been asking about brushes and the softness and hardness, springiness and so on, and I didn't realise until people started asking that question how much difference there was with my own brushes. And I think you just tend to adapt what you're doing. You just tend to adjust a little bit as you go along. Okay, I'm going to do some more of the flowers. My pencil lines are really just a guideline. They're not really meant to be followed slavishly, but they are helpful. So we'll do the same here as I did on the other side, making a good contrast into the little buds. Just a little bit of paint. Remember, we're only using 2 colours, so this is helpful if you're trying to, conquer your palette. by learning what it can do. And I've put those buds on the wrong side, so I'm going to just go ahead and put them back where they should be on the other side. And in a minute I'll come through and rub out the wrong line if necessary. Okay. Yeah, because two colours can make an awful lot of mixtures, especially if one of them is a blend. Like quinacridone gold is a little bit reddish, isn't it? It's on the red side of yellow. So it's almost like having three colours. I was thinking about one of the old artists from during the war, a German artist called Emil Nolde, and he was a bit of a rebel, and he was in hiding from the Nazis during the war, and he was unable, because he was an artist and he was a bit rebellious. They didn't like what he was painting for some reason. He was supposed to be painting things that supported the Reich, and he wouldn't do that. So he had to go into hiding. And while he was in hiding, he didn't have any materials to speak of, and he was painting with everything he could lay his hands on. You know, bits of charcoal from the fire, or lumps of candle wax that were mixed with ground up pigments that he found in the garden, and all sorts of things. And I was thinking how, you know, how spoilt we are, basically. How spoilt we are. We have so much and we don't use it fully. You know, somebody like him, he would have absolutely been completely overwhelmed by the things that we have nowadays. The choices, too many choices, too many colours. Nobody needs 364 different colours of paint. And Emil Nolde produced masterpieces with his charcoal and pigments from the garden. The other one is that lady, that Canadian painter. I can't remember her name. She was one of the friends of the group of 7, and she started painting, I think, when she was quite mature, probably about my age, and she couldn't afford to buy canvases, so she painted on cardboard. Okay, so I've wet the butterfly in the middle, and I'm trying not to think about it too much, because I'm going to drop paint into the corners and pray that the gods are with me. And notice how I'm doing that. I'm just dabbing, going bump, 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 bump. Bump, 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 bump. Like that, and building up a sort of reservoir. Not stroking the paint out, but dropping, literally plopping it in. And then the weight of the pigment, the paint, forces itself into the water, which is on the paper. And I'm going to put some blobs down here. And then what you can do, well, I'm going to leave that to run for a bit, and I'm going to go into the other butterflies up here. And I'm just going to do them really loosely. Or that one rather. And this one down here, I think we might make him a little bit on the greenish side. This is undercoat. Imaginary, you know. And just drop something in for his tips. Like that. And his body. This one needs a body as well. And this one, no, we're not going to make them yellow because obviously the flowers are yellow, so we don't want to confuse anybody. Green is about as far as we want to go in that direction. So we'll call this one a small blue, and we'll drop in his body. With any luck, that will bleed out into the wings. We'll give him some tips. And I'll just do the other one up the top there. Oh, the sun's come out. And pop in the body and some tips. So now I'm going to come back to the big one in the middle, and it's got eyes and a body. So we'll just roughly paint that in over where I'd drawn it. I'll do his antennae later. Then I'm going to use a sharp object. What shall I use? I have been finding these feathers quite good, but I think I might use a stick. And hopefully just draw some lines in. And out. Okay, so that now we need to let it dry. Okay, so this is completely dry now, and I've removed all of the pencil lines that were no longer necessary, and I'm just going to put in the antennae for this one using a 0.05 pigment liner, and then I'm going to just redraw the outside edge of the wing of this one because it needs a little bit of definition there. Not solid lines, just because this is a watercolor really, so. And I'm just going to reshape the body a little bit, a little bit of structure. There we are, that'll do for that. And if you wanted to, you could outline some of the places where the spots are. You could come in, I might do that in a minute, with a little bit of white. But first, let me see what else needs, if anything needs touching up. Okay, of course, all of the antennae need to be put in on all of them, and sort of perhaps a little bit of an indication of legs if you feel that way inclined, but I probably won't. Suddenly they look a lot more like butterflies when they've got their antennae, don't they? And you can, if you want, emphasize the veins on these a little bit. If you want to, you could play as much as you like with the wings and everything. You can do little pointy bits on the bottom, back edge like that. Loads of things that you can do, or you can just leave it as I'm going to do, kind of a little bit rough. Yeah, so maybe we'll just also put a little bit on here, on these buds. It looks a bit like, what is it? No, not jasmine. Safflower. Oh, it doesn't matter, I can't remember. Okay, so you could put more things in here. You could put some spatter in there if you wanted to. You could build up the number of leaves. I mean, if you think I don't have enough leaves, you could say, oh, maybe we should have another leaf here. And come in and put one in a slightly different colour. Maybe another one here. It's entirely open to all sorts of interpretations and developments. And that was just two colours. So the other thing that I think might be worth doing is perhaps a little bit of blue shadow underneath. Now this is a bit of a risky process, because the idea is to give a bit of three-dimensionality so it looks as if it's casting a shadow underneath. Hopefully that will work. And then you could, if you wanted to, I suppose, you could do it with any of them. Any or all of the butterflies. But I think I'll just do it with that one. Oh yes, I was going to put a little bit more white on there, wasn't I? White gouache. Somewhere. Just because I think that the idea of a couple of white dots on there is a good one. And maybe one down here. So today I thought that we would do a wreath, an autumn wreath, to celebrate the coming of the new season. And so first of all, I'm going to show you how I prepared this subject for you, and just quickly look through my sketchbook. This is one that I made earlier, and this is what this is what your sketchbooks should look like if you're using a sketchbook to prepare for your painting sessions. And so you can see that in here I've got all the preparatory work that I did for the last few weeks of sketches. Some of it's not so tidy, some of it's interesting, some of it isn't. But anyway, it is what it is. And you might recognise some of these videos and some of these swatches and some of these things I haven't yet done. And notes that I make and sketches that I do and so on and so forth. So if any of you want to see any of these ones actually worked up into a video, like these trees, for example, we did that one, didn't we? Then do put something in the comments below. That's always a good way of communicating with me. These ones are much more recent. This is a doodle I did the other day while I was, I don't know what I was doing, talking, I think. And anyway, so today, this is the preparatory sketch that I've done. I'm going to make a circle. I'm going to put these different seasonal items in it, around it, in this circle, and then we're going to have a caption in the middle. And I thought that, although it's probably a bit hackneyed, a bit, you know, worn out, the line from the poem by Keats, "The season of mist and mellow fruitfulness," is a lovely, evocative, especially if you happen to live in one of the parts of the world where you have lots of autumnal mists, like we do here today. The sunrise was beautiful as it came up through the mist. Anyway, so we're going to have things like acorns, oak leaves, beech mast, mushrooms, pumpkins, sycamore, and I've labelled what I've put on here. And then, of course, in order to draw these things, you have to go to reference material to make sure you get it right, because although everyone thinks they know what a beech mast looks like, they don't necessarily. Anyway, I've got two books here which are really, 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 really useful for people who want to paint nature and who want to get it right. This one is Food for Free by Richard Mabey. It's an old book, been around a long time. Somebody gave me this one because she bought it, and when it came it was delivered bent, so she didn't want it, so she gave it to me. Beautiful photos in here. Highly recommend get a second-hand copy of this book. You can probably get one for next to nothing. It was published in 1972, and this edition was 2012. So it's an old book, but this was the colour version with loads of beautiful photos, which are much easier to refer to than the internet, because you can actually see them, touch them. You can almost be there. All damsons and all sorts of sloes and lovely, lovely pictures in here. And even better still, at the back, it's got a kind of visual index. So if you say to yourself, oh, I'd like to draw some rowan berries, you can turn to this page and it will show you the shape of the leaves, the way the berries hang on the branches, and so on. So you can get the simplified details there, and that's really handy. So I'm using that to check out what hazelnuts and sweet chestnuts and beech nuts look like, because I'm going to put those in our painting today. So we'll put that to one side now for the minute, and I'll show you the other book that I use, which is an even older book. I got this second hand. It was £5. I don't think I paid £5 from a charity shop, from a thrift shop. And this is ancient, very nearly as old as me, older than Tamsin, my daughter. So first edition, this is a first edition, which is, it might even be, well, if it was in good condition, it would have been worth something. Book of the British Countryside, published by the AA, the Automobile Association in England in 1972. And this is also, I mean, I do love these old books. They've got so much information in them. It's incredible. Incredible. So much that we've forgotten since we simplified it all down and put it online. Anyway, this is an artistic rendition of a corner of a beechwood forest, and it's got various animals and plants in it and so on and so forth. So I'm using that as inspiration too. And if I want to look anything up, like the skeleton of a bird or the colours and shapes of butterflies, this book is a marvellous reference. So just a couple of ideas if you want to improve your access to real nature reference and get things right when you paint them. This kind of book is very helpful. So I will put the names of these in the description below the video in case you feel like going on a hunt. I know in America you might think you wouldn't be able to get this, but I bet you could. I bet you could, because I bet you anything you like, a lot of English people who emigrated to Canada, for example, will have, I think I got this in Canada to tell you the truth, they will have taken these books with them, and then when they die they go to charity shops. So you can get them online. You can go online and order these easily from some of those resellers who try to sell books before they get burnt, because if they don't get sold they get burnt. It's tragic, really. Anyway, put those to one side for a minute. This is the sketch I've done so far, and my next step after having done this rough sketch is to transfer that onto a piece of paper. Okay, so I'm back and I have here a piece of paper, watercolour paper, which we're going to use today, and I've decided to go for a slightly bigger piece than my usual A4. This is a foot, 12 inches by 15, I think. Yeah, and that will give me a bit more space in order to be able to do this painting. And I'm going to first of all tape it down onto my board. Now I'm using masking tape here because I want it to be fairly firm, and the washi tape is very pretty, but it's not as sticky as this. So just to be on the safe side. And what I do is I have got a spare tape dispenser, and that had sellotape on it before, and so I've got a spare one of those, and I decided finally, after many years of not doing this, I decided that I would put a roll of masking tape on a dispenser because I'm using it so often, and so that's what I did, and that turned out to be really helpful. So now that's nicely stuck down. And I had a couple of questions about this board that I use, or about the boards that I use. This is just a piece of plywood, 3/8 of an inch plywood. And get it from any lumberyard or a place that sells wood. And just have it cut to size. This is a good size. This is, let me see. A good size for your board would be 16 inches by 24 inches. And then you can easily put a piece of paper this big on it. When you get it home, just give it a quick, very, very light sanding, and then coat it with a very light coat of polyurethane varnish, and that will be absolutely perfect. I suggest you have 2 of these. I've got a stack of them here because I'm always painting, but you need at least 2, and this will protect your table, and you won't have to paint your tabletop as often as I do. Anyway, so the first thing to do is to draw a circle. So I've got my compass here so that I can draw the circle to the size that I want, and I'm going to make it, find the center and do a circle that goes to within about 1/2 inch of the top and the bottom. That's just a guideline, really. It's easier than going and finding a plate if you happen to have a pair of compasses handy. It's an old set from school days or university days or whatever. You'll notice that I have very few things that are actually new in my life. So now the next thing to do is to start to draw the design onto here. So we go back to my reference drawing, and then I'm going to start drawing that, and I'm not going to make you watch me do that this time because it's probably going to take quite a while. So I'll draw that and I'll come back as soon as it's drawn, and then we'll go ahead and paint it. So there we are, there's the drawing done, and I will be putting a copy of this up on the website for you if you want to download it, a tracing that you can use. And in this wreath I have got a whole lot of different plants. Starting at the bottom here, we've got some mushrooms of different sorts, and a pumpkin, and we've got a little mouse and a bird, and then coming up here we've got sweet chestnuts, elderberries, we have got a bee and a butterfly, and on this side we've got some oak leaves and some acorns and some hazelnuts and some beech mast here. Then we've got some crab apples, and we've got some damsons or sloes, either, it looks like both, and then a couple of wild cherries, and we have a dragonfly followed up at the top by a few little hops, which are something which is traditional to where I come from, which is Kent in the UK. So that's what they use to flavour beer. So that's a lovely early autumn garland there with some of the fruits, and I think I had some blackberries in there somewhere. Oh, that's right, blackberries are meant to be here. I haven't drawn the blackberries, but I will. Okay, so in order to do this painting, I'm going to do it in watercolour to start with, and I will either use my number 7 Draw Well brush, or I'll use my Kuretake water brush. Then when it's done, depending on how it turns out, I may or may not use the glass pen to do a little bit of inking on top. I did think about inking the whole thing first, but I decided I would go for the painting in the first place. And colours, I've got what for me is a fairly broad palette here. I've got 7 colours. I'm not sure if I'll use all of these, maybe not. But anyway, what I have here as being the most likely to be needed are cobalt blue, quinacridone gold, burnt sienna, olive green, Winsor violet, alizarin crimson, and sepia. And I've also got my Viviva colour sheets here, which I might use the saffron or the burnt sienna or the vermilion for the pumpkin and the top of this mushroom here, because those are lovely bright colours, which even my beloved quinacridone gold can't actually emulate those particular bright shades. So I'm not ashamed to say that I will use whatever I can lay my hands on in order to achieve the colour that I'm looking for. So I'll just move these things a little bit out of the way for now. And as well as all of that, I've got my piece of toweling here that I can dry my brush on. And I've got a sheet of paper, just a spare sheet of rough paper to try colours out on as I go along. Oh, and I should mention, I did the drawing for this in a B-roll Charisma colour, a soft pencil. It's a Charisma graphite aquarelle. That means that it will run slightly if when I put the paint on, but that will probably just add to the depth, so I'm not too worried about that. In fact, that was a deliberate choice of mine. So there we are. Now, in order to get this painting to work properly, whenever you're doing something fairly big like this, you want to probably start by laying in the brightest colours first, and then the rest of it will fall into place behind that. Otherwise, if you start with the leaves and the smaller things, when you put in something really bright like a pumpkin, that might throw the whole colour balance off a bit. So bearing that in mind, I'm going to probably start with a bright colour. I'm not quite sure which one yet. My colour sheets are starting to wear out, so I'm getting to the point now where I'm going to have to either get some more or go back to my other colours. So I'm going to start by putting in some, this is dusk, or no, this is vermilion, I think. No, it's not. It should be though. Vermilion is probably the best way to go. So. And then maybe we'll add a little bit of maybe chrome yellow is what I need. Sort of blend in. Okay, so that's that. And then the other really bright thing is the top of the toadstool, which is a nice red. So I'm mixing alizarin crimson here with chrome yellow, and then I'm going to come in and just try and paint a little bit around the dots, because I'm going to say that this particular toadstool has got white spots on it. So we'll just paint round those using a rough mixture of alizarin crimson and chrome yellow. So just trying out blending actually the normal Winsor & Newton or Old Holland colours with these colour sheets. So those are the most vivid colours. And then of course I did say that we were going to have some wild cherries up here. So since I've got red on the brush, I'll put those in. And what else have we got that's red? The apples are going to be a little bit more golden. So I'm going to use quinacridone gold and a touch of red. And maybe a touch of green as well. We'll use olive green, just a little bit of green around there. Okay, now what else have we got? I think it's probably not a bad idea to do the fruit and so on. Oh, these toadstools down here are also on the red side, so we'll put in their lids. But their stalks, their stems or whatever are going to be a sort of browny beige colour. And then we've got two more mushrooms here, and these ones are neutral in colour, so sort of kind of browny pink. So that's that. So those are most of the bright colours. The other bright thing is the blackberry up here, which is sort of bright, and I hadn't drawn it very well, but I'll just come in and finish that off with lots of little circles. And put one here. And then the elderberry, which is quite a dark, this is, you could say, tedious. So just lots of dots. Okay, and oh yes, the damsons over here, which are also purple, like that, and try and make a little bit of variety there by coming in with something a little bit darker. Damsons or sloes, I'm not sure which I would like those to be. If they're slows, they're smaller. What else have we got that's got colour? I think that's about it. Okay. So I'm going to come into the pumpkin and draw in some of its shadowy bits where the, what would you call those? The segments, I suppose, sort of thing, are. And then with some dark green, we will drop in the stem. Okay. Don't want it quite as dark as that, so I'm just going to lift a little bit out. Now, let's see. Let's maybe start at the top here with the dragonfly. And let's just drop in some nice light blue, and then maybe a touch of violet for the second of the wings, like that. And then the bee, we need some yellow for the body parts that are yellow, and we'll let that dry, and then we'll put the black in a minute. But a little bit of orange at the bottom, and let that bleed a little bit. And then we have a butterfly up there, so I think to sort of match the dragonfly, we'll do the butterfly in blue. Call this a blue butterfly. And that can have a sort of dark blue body, like that. And when that's dry, we'll put in the legs and antennae and things. And I like it when, if you put the body of your dragonfly in while it's still wet, it will bleed out a little bit into the wings, which looks kind of natural, so that's a good thing. Okay, so I'm a little bit concerned that I might have made the pumpkin a little bit too bright. So I'm just going to lift some of the colour out. So, you know, this is a good thing to be able to do. Don't hesitate if you feel you might have overdone it. Always possible to lift paint out. Don't believe anyone who says that watercolour is difficult because you can't correct anything. You can. It's just a matter of doing it. So that's much better. Right, now we need to start thinking about some greens. And I'm going to start at the top, I think, work down perhaps, with my hops, which are sort of yellowy green colour like this. I'm just going to check my reference book to see what colour the leaves of the hops are when they are fruiting. Page 36, 440, 440. Hops. Right, they're quite a bluish green. When I grew up as a child living in Kent, it was called the Garden of England, Kent, and there were hop fields and apple orchards and everything everywhere. It was a beautiful place. I think now most of the, if not all of the hops have gone. I think we import the hops for, well, I mean, let's face it, who makes beer anymore? Nobody really. Apart from my nephew, who had a few years ago started a home brewery business, you know, one of those, what do they call them, bijou pubs. They make their own beer, but it's very small compared to what it used to be. I lived in Faversham for a while. I don't know if any English people out there remember Shepherd Neame, the brewery. I think it's still there, but I don't suppose it's very important anymore. I don't expect they get their hops from Poland or something. Okay, so it's moving on. Acorns are brown. So let's go for something like burnt sienna, the acorns down here, and then a darker brown for the cup. So we use sepia for that. This is a fun painting because it's got lots of different colours in it. And then I'm going to do burnt sienna also for these oak leaves. But I'm going to add a little bit of purple as well, and a little bit of sepia. Put some shadow in underneath those mushrooms, since I've got the right colour. Wait for that to dry and then we'll do the same there. Meanwhile, this is dry, so we'll put some shadow on that mushroom. And then down below as well on these little legs. And so green, some kind of green here for this beech leaf. And let's put one here as well. And here we've got a little nut. First coat, let that dry, come in and give it some shape like we have here. And we could use the pen without any ink, just use the pen to draw in the lines. And here on the cup, which of The acorn cup has dots, and this one is also there we are. And let's put a leaf in here. So that's olive green plus a little bit of quinacridone gold. I don't really like the way I did that, so I'm going to take that out, make that shorter. I'll correct that in a minute, and I'm going to make this into a robin. So we give him a red breast. And then a brown back and tail and wing. And we'll do his eye and his beak and his legs shortly. Let's put this veins in that leaf too. Over here we have a little mouse. So burnt sienna for his little face. A little bit of grey. A bit of pink for his ears, and we let him dry too. And then we'll put in the details of his paws and things. And then we've got some leaves here. And this is beech mast. Which has a sort of greeny brown casing around it. And then the stem of the mushroom, I guess, is going to be just kind of beigey colour. A little bit of brown in it like that. And then this part is going to be grey underneath. And we can draw in a few of the gills. They'll just show very lightly. And then now we're, okay, we have another beech leaf here. Let's make this one nice and golden. Touch of green. Oak leaves, golden on the underneath, and then into that we're going to paint other colours, just to keep it all very varied. Maybe this one could be a little bit purpley, burnt sienna. And then the apple, that's going to be a brighter green, slightly brighter green for the leaves. They're sort of smooth-edged, the apple leaves a little bit more. And then these leaves here, nice and simple, just plain green. Keep that one simple. Cherry leaf, thin, jagged, there. And I'm not quite sure. Oh, those, oh, I don't know what those ones are. Perhaps they're apple leaves as well. They look like they could be. And then these ones here. Have a few, I forgot to draw them in, but we'll have a few red berries there. We could call this would be rowan. There we are. And probably the same on the other side here. Rowan berries. And then we're getting there. We are getting there. These are blackberry leaves, and they're always pretty brownish and jagged. And now we have the bee, and that's where we're probably going to need a little bit of black for him. So we just pop his black areas in like that. And then we'll just drag up a little fraction of colour into his wings like that. And in a second I'll put in his feet. Okay, so these are late blackberry flowers. So to paint a white flower, you just, or pink, you just very delicately just indicate a little bit of shadow. And then in the middle, of course, yellow, like that. And we want a little bit of green for the leaves behind. And these are elderberries, so we need some nice green leaves for them. Contrast with the purple of the leaves of the berries. And then here we've got horse chestnut. They're one of the more colourful leaves in England, I think. Probably everywhere. I think they have a lot of them in Spain, don't they? And the casing is usually green, isn't it? Light green, I think.
Yes.
That was my phone speaking to me. I'm not sure why. I didn't ask him to. Inside of the horse chestnut, the case is beige. Like that. And then the chestnut itself, of course, is quite bright brown, like that. Okay, I'm going to grab my fine liner, pigment liner, for the legs of the bird, the robin, and his beak and his eye, and also for the antennae of the bee and his legs, and the antennae of the butterfly and the dragonfly, and then down here the mouse, his nose, his whiskers, his little paws. What else have we got? We've got the beech mast here. A while ago, I did a course in felting, needle felting, which was really interesting. And one of the things I made was this mushroom, just following what I was taught in the course, and really enjoyed that, apart from the bit where you stick the needle into your hand repeatedly. It's definitely a hobby for masochists. But anyway, so I was looking at this morning and I thought to myself, oh, let's paint lots of mushrooms. And so that's what we're going to do today. And having thought about that as my inspiration, I went to my big book of mushrooms, which is my Automobile Association Book of the British Countryside. And it has everything in it that you could wish for. These are beautiful paintings of all the different kinds of edible, inedible and poisonous fungi of the British Isles. So there's lots of, I wouldn't touch a wild mushroom if you paid me, not in a million years. Lots of people here like to go foraging for mushrooms. And a friend of mine who is actually very ill at the moment has spent the last few years of her life foraging for things in the forest. And I think I am not going to follow in her footsteps. You never know. And it has been known for whole entire families here in France to wake up dead in the morning after having eaten one of these ones. Some of them look a lot like edible ones, and they aren't. So even though you can go to the pharmacy here with a mushroom that you've picked up in the forest, and you can ask any pharmacist and they will tell you whether or not you can eat it, I wouldn't trust them. I would not trust anybody with a mushroom. No way. I like my mushrooms sanitized, white, packaged in plastic and labeled non-toxic. Anyway, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw some of these here mushrooms in a kind of, almost like a garlandy kind of way. We did a garland the other day, didn't we? But I'm going to just, I'm not quite sure how this is going to work out at the moment, but I'm going to pretty much start off on this side here with a tall one, and we'll do a nice stem with a frilly dubri there, because everybody needs a frilly dubri. Don't they, Arthur? Eh? I've put Arthur in his crate. He lives in the studio, but he sleeps and has his snack in the crate, and that stops him from walking all over my paintings. So that's a good thing. So I'm just doing the cap here of this mushroom. This one in this book is a nice green colour, so that's nice, and it has kind of texture on the top, sort of, I don't know what you call sort of like scales of skin or something like that. And then there's a smaller one down below here, which has got a slightly taller shaped hat on it. And then we've got a little bit of grass growing around and about. And on this side here, maybe we'll put, what shall we put? I don't know, just some slightly taller grasses perhaps. Some strands of grass up here like that. And so that's that one. It's a nice tall thin one. And then so the next one along is going to be a little bit lower. We put it sort of in the middle here perhaps, and let's do one of these weird and wonderful ones that looks like a trumpet or some kind of thing. It's a chanterelle. Now I know that those aren't poisonous, and I know that they are everywhere in the forests here, or at least they used to be. They're shaped like a horn or something, like that. And then they're yellow, so that's a nice thing to have. So we'll put the stem, which is kind of bulbous at the bottom. And then maybe it might be growing surrounded by something like fern. So we'll put some ferny type arrangements there. And another one there. And then maybe a little bit here. So we could call this a mushroom forest, couldn't we? And this is yellow, and it goes in and down. A cat jumped up onto my leg today, and I haven't got anything on my legs because it's so hot here, so he has made various holes in me. And anyway, and so now I think we'll have some of these tall, thin, spindly things, which according to my book are called wood woolly foot. Well, whatever. Wood woolly foot. Nice. And they have a kind of, whoops, that went a bit far. I think we'll just change the angle of the stem up to here. There we go. I'm using for the drawing, I'm using a Charisma Graphite Aquarelle pencil, which is, it means it's a watercolor pencil, so it will, when I paint over this, it will dissolve into the color of the paint, so that's a good thing. So we'll put another one behind here. I don't know whether any of you have visited our Teespring shop yet. We're going to be putting some more in there today, but we've got already a few mugs and there'll be more coming. And the other thing I wanted to say was, while I remember it at the beginning of the video, if you join the channel membership, go to the Diane Antone Studio YouTube homepage for the channel, where we have all of our videos listed, and you'll see on the tabs up the top, you'll see community tab, and if you click on there you can get a link through, or you can get the same link from underneath any of the videos. You get a link through to the membership, and if you join for $4.99 a month, $2.99 a month, or $8.99 a month, you get emojis and what do you call them, or bits and pieces like that. But if you join Relax, which is Breathe, which is the middle one, then you can get also a freebie every month. You get a free download of something or other, and that's just coming up soon. So if I were you, I would nip along there ASAP and join for the sake of $4.99 a month. And we've got a really interesting and cool download for you, which is going to be coming out in the next day or two. Let's say by the end of this week. So go ahead and join that, because you won't regret it. I mean, for $4.99, it's less than the price of a Starbucks, isn't it? So yeah, do me a favor and join. and I'll carry on drawing mushrooms for you until the cows come home. Let's put an oak leaf here. And we'll put one here as well. It's a little mushroom, and we're going to put a bigger one up here. We're going to do one of those ones with a big cap, I think. Let me see, what have we got that's not poisonous? Well, you don't see many of those ones with the red tops around here, but you do see them sometimes. Anyhow, so we've got those two. I can't remember what that's called. I should be able to, but I can't. And then behind here we'll have a little bit of, let's have something growing up here. Something that looks a bit like honeysuckle, perhaps. And maybe some oak leaves behind it. We need an acorn down here that's fallen from the tree. Right, and then let's see, what can we have here? Something a little bit smaller. Okay, let's have something like a pancake, perhaps, like that. It has kind of dent in the middle. And we have stripy stalk. And they all seem to, in this rather lovely drawing that I'm working from, well, it's not a drawing, it's a photograph, they have babies beside them, so mummy and baby. Okay, that's good. And then have another oak leaf here. And grass. And then maybe some little ones with big caps like this. And then maybe another one like that here, a delicate one with a slim stem. So there's a nice little arrangement there so we put some more, perhaps some fern up here. And then I'm going to clear a little bit of space here because what I want to put in there is a little snail, I think. To look up snails. Where can I find a snail? Snail. Snail, there we are. Snails. Such a good book, isn't it? To little snail in there. So we will have a snail with a little horns. They have like 4 things coming out the front, and then they go along like that, and like that, and then they have a nice shell. So we'll carry on up here with the oak leaves and something like honeysuckle. And we should start something from here as well. Once I've done this in pencil, if you wanted to, I don't think I'm going to do it in ink today. I've done a lot of ink lately, and I've got another plan for an ink one coming up because I've just had a delivery of some new inks which I want to share with you soon. You could ink it and then do it as a pen and ink, watercolour wash and so on. But I think I'll probably just paint into the pencil. Yeah, I was saying about things that we've got for sale. We've got watercolour paintings printed on mugs, and there'll be more things coming, like bags and t-shirts and things like that. But if you order a mug, they are limited edition. We're only going to do 100 of each design. And we've got the signature mugs, which have got my signature on them, and limited edition. It won't say limited edition on it, but believe me, they are. So in 10 years' time, you'll be able to sell them on eBay for a profit. Haha. If eBay's still going. Yes, and so what was I saying? Also, we've got the first couple of colouring books are going to come up, and they are going to be full of these sketches collected together in a bundle at a very reasonable price, with a nice cover and an introductory page, a little bit about materials, a little bit about stuff, and just $3-4 for those. Nothing much, but we would love you to buy those and share those with your friends. We're doing them all specially for you. I was going to paint the house this year, but I decided I would sooner do this, so the house has not got painted. And some berries on here as well. The reason being that they're nice and red. I don't know what kind of plant that would be, but anyway. We can do them any colour we want, can't we? And then in the middle, we've got a couple more oak leaves. And what can we put there? I think we'll just carry on with the oak. Okay, and we need another one here, I think, maybe shaped like all good mushrooms are. Now the interest in this is not so much the drawing, but more the colouring in. Which we will come to soon. This is some blackberries. And we could have some elderberries over here. And maybe another one of these relatively tall ones here, like that. And another one here. Okay, and we could come out here a little bit too. And maybe out here a little bit as well. Then we've got some space here. We might put a little bit more there and a bit more there, but got a little bit of space there where we can do some writing. So I'm going to stop there for the minute and go and have lunch, and I'll be back shortly. So the drawing's done now, and I've scanned that, so that'll be ready to go up onto the website for you to download if you so desire. That'll be up either tonight or tomorrow morning. And today I'm going to use my Viviva colour sheets to paint this, because I have found that that is the best way, the most controllable way, in conjunction with the water brush. This is a Kuretake one, and they're very good. I think they might be, well, I don't think you could do better. They're very controllable, very cheap and very easy to use, very easy to get. And these you can go online to Viviva's website via our link, which is in the description below this video and also on our website. If you go via our link, we get a small commission on that. So that's nice, so that's helpful to us. And we're trying to promote these people because it's an Indian company. They are in the Indian subcontinent. Young people, a family group of people, really nice guys who are trying to do something good. It's a very ethical company. They employ lots of local women and probably men too, doing this project which they were crowdfunded for, and it's all very ethical and everything. So it's nice to try these out for the heck of it and they are great. I really like them. So heartily recommend you give them a try, especially if you like doing this kind of painting, or if you do, you know, all of that kind of making cards and stuff like that. It's ideal because they're very easy to control and very bright. So that's the sales pitch over, and now I'm going to start looking at colouring this in. And in my AA book of mushrooms, this is green, so I'm going to paint it green. I didn't ever really think that mushrooms were, on the whole, all that green, but that's what it says. So I'm going to get this paper. Excuse me. Stretching. Piece of paper to try out the colour on, and it's a bit bright. That's not quite right. So we'll add a bit of yellow to that, and I think that's probably close enough. So we'll pop a bit of yellow, of green on there. And I'm going to vary that by adding some yellowish green and a little bit more of that green, and then maybe a little bit of a very little bit of a nice warm rusty colour, and then we'll blend that in across the entire mushroom, and then we'll let that just do its job. And then we're going to come down here, and it's a kind of beigey colour, so we'll be looking for a sort of now the benefit of using these watercolour pencils, excuse me, pencils, is of course that they do run a little bit, which is what we want, which is going to give us a nice effect. Okay, I'll just spread that out a little bit so it's not too patchy. I'm working on a sheet of Clairefontaine Etival watercolour paper. So this little one here, I think, is going to be, this big one, I'm going to do that one next. That's going to be, according to my reference material, that is going to be orangey yellow. So we'll pop in some orange. A little bit of a darker orange there, and then just bring in the lighter orange around. So that's that one. And down here maybe we'll go for yellow. Let's see if we can find some yellow. Let's go for chrome yellow perhaps. That's a very greenish yellow. Might be the wrong yellow. Let's try happy yellow. That's better. Just going to move this over a bit so you can see a bit better. This is olive green, so we'll use that for some of these grasses here. And maybe we'll put a bit of yellow in there too, just to soften that up a bit. And we've got our little snail behind here. So we'll put his nice little brown shell in, and then his body is going to be greyish, so we can mix the orange with some blue. Just in case anyone wonders what that squeaking is, that's my golden retriever squeaking her, what kind of ball is that? One of those orange ones, a chuck it ball. There we are, so there's a snail hiding behind a mushroom. I don't like the colour of that yellow one, so I'm going to put some blue in there to make, if I can get some blue up on the brush, make it a different colour. Okay, now this one I think is a kind of brown, isn't it? Where's it gone? Okay, I can't find it, but I'm going to do it brown, I think. There we are, and then the insides are always beige, and I'm beginning to think I might want to use something like Potter's Pink for that. I'm going to find that. That's the limitation. If there's a limitation, there is a limitation, obviously, and one of them is the fact that the colour sheets are a bit awkward, and the other thing is that they don't have all the colours. So, as you would expect, because it's only a small set. So, if you want something particular, like a kind of grey pink, you have to go to your regular set. And I'm going to do this one, the top of this one, in Potter's Pink too, but I'll do it quite strong, like that. And then I'm going to put a little bit of brown in there. As well. And let that do its thing. Then we'll come in here with the brown again, because that's the same as this one. And Potter's Pink for the underneath. And then the stem stalk. So then these two down here, what should we do those ones in? Shall we make them also pink, but a little pinker, maybe? Oh, I've got some nice red there that's mixed itself up, so perhaps I'll pop on over here and do that, this nice red. So nice vermilion colour there, mixed with their vivid red. Those two together, that comes out quite striking. I always find the reds in most regular paint sets to be a little bit uninteresting. You tend to get fire engine red and pillar box red, and that's about it really. Okay, so that's that, and then the underneath we can do that in Potter's Pink again, which is great for the underneath, and then add a little bit of brown to that for the stem. Then there's another little red one down here. Don't forget that Potter's Pink granulates, so if you don't like that granular effect, that's little sort of bits of texture that appear, if you don't like that, then don't use it. Just use permanent rose or something. So then we need another orangey red colour, I think. And burnt umber. For this one. And then we'll put some dark brown in the middle. And blend that in. And then back to the pink for the stem. Burnt umber again for that one, because it's the baby sister or brother of the one here. Same thing. I'm going to go for the quinacridone gold here too, which I'm going to just use for this one, only because I don't want quinacridone gold to feel left out. And then the Potter's Pink for the stem. Make that quite nice and vibrant, because I expect it will dry a lot lighter. Maybe pop a bit of brown in there, underneath perhaps. And what should we do these ones? I think in real life these ones are a kind of pinkish mushroom, so I'll go with the pink. I'll do the stems in blue, bluey grey. These ones up here, what should we do those? Let's do them purple, because we haven't done anything in purple yet. There we go. That's magenta with a bit of Prussian blue. This one has nice slim stalks. Do those in pink. There we are, and maybe this probably wants a little bit of darker, bit of shadow on there. Okay, I think that's all the mushrooms. So now what we have to do is paint the leaves. So we want stick to greens here probably. So we have a little bit of olive green there, a bit of quinacridone gold there, just to supplement my other ones. And then we've also got, I've got some blackberries over there. So while I'm thinking magenta and blue, pop in the blackberries. Just drop those in as little dots. And then over here I put in some elderberries, which reminds me that we didn't pick any elderberries this year. Usually we do. We make at least one batch of elderberry juice, but we didn't. I sort of forgot, and I think part of the problem is that we cut down one of our elderberry trees, which of course makes a difference. But we haven't had time. So that's those, and then we'll do some nice red ones up here as well, I think. These little touches of colour that you can put in when you're doing something like this with berries, the little touches of dark purple and red, and they really make a lot of difference to the finished result. They lift it. And what's great about the Viviva colours is that they don't fade. That's one of the things I was moaning about earlier with the traditional colours, that they so often, which is fine if you're painting a landscape, you don't want anything too vibrant, but it's not necessarily what you want when you're doing something like this, or if you're painting a card for somebody, you don't want it to be washed out. I keep saying I'm going to get some of those Quor colours, spelt Q-O-R, because they claim that their colours, which come in tubes, like ordinary watercolours, that they don't fade. So I don't mean fade over time, I mean that they don't dry lighter than they are when you put them on. That would require a whole new technique too, if you've got used to this way of painting. Not this, what I'm doing now, but I mean when you take into consideration the fact that it's going to fade. If you suddenly stop having to take into consideration the fact that it's going to fade, then you have to learn something new. Okay, I think that's probably enough berries down there, and we're having acorns up there. So I'm going to pick up some burnt sienna because that's a good colour for acorns. And do the, what do you call them? The actual acorn rather than the cup. Okay, and then since I'm down here, I'm going to start painting in some of these oak leaves. And although our oaks are still green, I know they're not everywhere, so I'm going to paint these ones more or less on the brown side. And sometimes it's nice to put a dash of purple in with the brown. And for the cups of the acorns, that's a very effective thing, to put some purple in with the burnt sienna, and then it kind of tones. It goes well with it. Okay, and the blackberry leaves are going to be, I'm going to put them in as brownish, but then I'm going to drop some green in there too, because they're usually a mixture, and perhaps a bit of red. Okay, back to the oak leaves, and a bit of green there because it's next to the red, so that kind of looks nice. Some grasses coming up here. Okay, so then I'm going to do the fern here. I've got a fern. And I am not going to paint every single, or even something like it. No way. So that'll do for that. A bit more down here. If you want to make that look more fern-like, you can come in afterwards with a pen or something. There we are, that's a bit of background. Okie dokie. Now we've got lots of green leaves to do up here. So maybe I'll draw in the stem first and then just plonk in the leaves like that. And we just vary the colour by sometimes using a little bit of quinacridone gold with the olive. If you pick up more than one colour on your brush at a time, then when you press down you'll get a mixture of colours, and it saves a bit of time. You can see that quite clearly here where I'm doing these oak leaves, and I'm picking up first of all olive green and then quinacridone gold, and then just painting them in like that. And you can see that the two colours are coming out. Together. And then once you've got the first layer in, you can drop in some reds and brighter oranges if you want. A little bit of vermilion in some of them, and perhaps some burnt umber. And then sometimes if you want to make the whole thing blend a bit better, just using the water brush is the nifty thing about it. You can just add some water, just squeeze the barrel of the brush a bit. A little bit of water will come out and it just makes the whole thing blend better. And we'll wait for that to dry and then tidy it up. And oh yeah, what we could do before it dries, if I just grab my glass pen, I can put in the veins. There's no ink in the pen, it's just where it goes into the paper, the colour sinks into the indentation, and so it comes out a little bit darker. Like that. Okay, so just this bit over here now, these leaves. I've nearly finished this step, so we'll see when it's done whether or not I want to go in with a bit of fine liner to finish it off or not. So first thing to do really is to let it dry. Then I'll rub out all of the pencil marks and we'll see what we're left with. Okay, so that's all dry now, and just by chance in the post right 2 minutes ago has arrived this Winsor & Newton ink, which has for some reason got a polar bear on the front of it. Goodness only knows why. I would not give this to a child in a month of Sundays, but anyway, it's white ink and it's supposed to be opaque. And so the reason I got it was I wanted to try out and see whether it would work better than white gouache for painting in final details, you know, like when you lose the white in the eye of a bird or something, or the circles on your toadstool are anything other than round. So I'm going to go in there and see whether this helps, and it might. I think it might also turn out slightly pinkish, but that's probably not necessarily a bad thing. And I also wanted to try it out. Where was it? What was I going to do? Can't remember. Oh, there's another one down there. Not sure that this is very, very good Winsor & Newton. Let's give it a good stir. And well, we'll see. I think it's working. I think if I go around the edges of something like that, that's to put a little highlight on, that's okay. It is definitely more convenient than white gouache, which is such a faff having to get that out and deal with all of that and its requirements. Okay, so that sort of works. And then the last thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to connect some of these elderberries to the tree from which they are growing by putting in some stalks using my Staedtler pigment liner, because otherwise they'll all fall off and that won't do. And over here we need some little bit of detail on the blackberries, bit of stem going down there. Oops, let me touch that. Yeah, these all need stems too. Stalks, whatever you want to call them. A little bit of texture on the cups of the acorns. A little bit of definition there. When you come to do this one, you can spend a lot more time over it than I have. The sketch for this will be on the website. Hello, snail. You can download it for free of charge, no cost. And if you want to, you can leave us a tip, or you can sign up, as I said earlier. Membership starts at $2.99. If you don't know how to find out about that, just leave me a message in the comments below. I'm just sharpening up the outlines of these here mushies. And where I haven't got any veins on the oak leaves, I'll put those in. I can do these little frilly skirts that the toadstools have, mushrooms, when they open up, they leave a little skirt behind there. It's often the case that drawings like this kind of jump into focus a little bit better once you just add some. You don't want to go around with great detail and great depth, but just enough to make it kind of I don't know what it is really, but it does work. And yeah, you could enhance the ferns a little bit if you want to, but I'm not going to do that because it's going to take too long. So there we are. I haven't got the foggiest idea how this is going to turn out, but I'm going to do something like a garland, if I can get this open. I'm going to first of all draw a circle, and that way I will have put pencil to paper, but not to paper actually, because I'm going to use this. I don't know why I've decided I'm going to use it today, but this is a piece of Daler Langton paper mounted on board, and this is a very extravagant way of doing a painting, and I have had this board for ages, and I'm going to use it because why not? You know, who knows what tomorrow may bring, so let's do that. And I wouldn't normally paint on board like this, and chances are it'll turn out really awful, but better than a blank sheet of paper, I suppose. So I'm going to do a kind of wreath arrangement, and I'm going to draw a circle, and I'm not quite sure exactly how big to make it. Something like this, I think. So sort of starting roughly in the center, I'm going to draw a nice big circle like that. And then we can put that away until next time the urge to draw a circle seizes me. And then I thought what we could do is we could have some writing in the middle there, and having been browsing on the internet today, I saw a really good idea somewhere, and the idea was that you do a sort of swish of colour in the middle, wait for that to dry, and then do your surrounding. So I think I'm going to do that. And at this moment in time, I don't even have any idea in my head what colour I'm going to use, except I want this to be sort of autumnal. So I think probably we'll go for good old quinacridone gold. So I'll just mix up a certain amount of that using my somewhat antique hake brush. The use of the hake brush with the Ron Ranson painting yesterday generated a fair amount of interest, and it also caused me to buy a new one. So yeah, and so that and burnt sienna, I think. Hair there, and maybe I'll just kind of drop in a little bit more burnt sienna and let that run. maybe a bit more of the quinacridone gold. And then I'm going to have to let that do its traditional thing. That is to say, dry. So I'm going to go away and let that dry. So it's dry, and I'm going to give it some texture now by just spattering in a little bit of the darker colours, partly to cover up some what must be grease dots on there, because it's very old paper, so that's not quite perfect. So we'll just do our best to disguise that, and it won't show much once everything else is finished, I'm sure. So we'll let that dry now, and I'll think about what I'm going to put around the outside. Now, like I said, I don't really have much idea about what I'm going to do, but I'm going to build it up as I go along, as if I was doing this in the studio for myself. And so this is burnt umber, and I'm going to put that there, and then in a second I'm going to scratch into it with my trusty IKEA card. I'm not going to wash that brush out because I might want that again, so I don't want to waste that. And just wait for a second, wait for the shine to go off of that, and then I'll be able to scratch out some white lines which will look like twiggy twig things. And while I'm waiting for that, I could draw some oak leaves. Like that, and into which I could use another brush and drop some quinacridone gold. Quite strong, we do that quite strong. And then some burnt sienna. And then some burnt umber. And then let's see. And then we can do the veins. And because this is still wet, the shine hasn't disappeared, we'll get darker veins. Okay, and let me see, what should we do next? We could do an acorn. Or two. When I do the acorns, I quite like to let the paint run, so I'll do the nut itself quite wet, and then let the paint bleed. And when that's dry, I can just sharpen up the edges a little bit. And now this one has presumably, yes, I can emphasize some of the, and here we can do a scratchy thing which will give us some texture. And there's quite a lot of bleeding gone on here, so we'll just put a little bit more dark in there. And the next thing, what shall we do next? Let's draw something. Let's draw some finer leaves, because why not? And maybe some berries. Just drop the golden colour in there. And then the burnt umber for some shadow, like that. And then maybe a little bit of pink for the leaves, perhaps. Bit of scratching out again, and I think down here I'm going to do another oak leaf, smaller and paler. And maybe a couple more berries here. And I quite like outlining things with pencil to give a bit more shape. Like that. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a peony type of flower in here, and I'm using Daniel Smith, something called Piedmontite. I don't know how you pronounce that actually. I'll just put a little bit too much water on there. And I'm just going to use my water brush for this flower because I actually find that it works better. So this is a sort of browny pink colour. And then I think it probably wants some gold in the middle. So that will be, add a little bit of quinacridone gold. I might have to lift some of that out like this, possibly, depends how it bleeds, but we'll see, we'll let that dry. And then I might use a little bit more of this colour for some leaves over here. When you do something like this, it's a good idea to have a very limited palette. You don't want to have too many colours. And what next? I'm going to put some butterflies up the top, but I think I'm going to continue on with perhaps another flower here. And maybe some more of this red. Perhaps we'll do some odds and ends. Scratch out some veins, or you can draw them in if you want. Either way, and you can draw in. So many different ways you can do this. I think I might switch to let's use my Zen Art brush for a bit, because that has quite a nice point. Just tidy up the acorn caps a little bit. So I've just popped in a couple of butterflies up the top here, just very simple little butterfly shapes, and I'm just going to basically sketch them in a couple of autumnal colours. We've got lots of brown and orange golden type butterflies flying around at the moment. You'd think that there wouldn't be that many this time of the year, wouldn't you? But there are quite a lot. We've had what we call an Indian summer. I don't know, do you call it that in America? I think you possibly do. Yeah, on a sort of surprisingly warm period in October when you're reminded that summer has gone. Because oddly enough, we had a very short summer this year. I'm just coming in with some watercolour pencil just to give some texture to these shapes here, which are sort of a little bit butterfly-like. The thing about butterflies is that they don't stay still, so you never see them like they look in the books when they do photographs or whatever. So what you see is a sort of butterfly blur. And I kind of feel that that's a good idea to try to recreate that, just the impression of what a butterfly might look like on another planet, for example. Then I'm going to put a few more of these leaves in. If your brush is obedient and works for putting them in like this, where you just press down and lift up, it all depends on the brush. Because when I started out this painting, I was using a different brush and I'd forgotten about this one. But this one is much better at doing this. And this is a Zen Art black tulip. And you can get very good leaves like this very easily, with a nice point and also a nice stem opportunity. It's much easier than any other way I've ever come across. But it depends on the brush. If you can't get that to work with your brush, it's not you, it's your brush. It's not quite so good for doing circles though. There we are, it's okay. You can do it that way round too. So I've used mostly quinacridone gold and this Piemontite pink, whatever, for this. And I think I'm coming towards the end. If you do have a nice sharp point on your brush, you can draw in the veins like that too, or you can outline things. I think Zen Art do a range of brushes for working in miniature, unless I'm mistaken. I'm pretty sure they do. Tiny ones, you know. So something I quite like to do when I get towards the end of the painting is to come back in with a watercolour pencil and just add a few touches to some of the leaves if they look a little bit as if they need it. And the good thing about that, of course, is that if you want to, you can wet the watercolour pencil and make it spread out a bit, but on the other hand you can just leave it dry, which is quite nice, I think. Or you can work into a wet patch and you can get a really nice dark line. But main thing is not to get too fiddly. Could end up doing all sorts of things, and some of them might not work out very well. This is always a case of, generally speaking, less is more. But it's such a nice paper to work on. It does seem a shame not to do more, doesn't it, sometimes? Hi everyone, hope everyone's well. Today we're going to do a kind of Christmas wreath that's sort of appropriate for a Christmas card, I think. Quite keen on drawing cardinals, so I've decided to put a pair of cardinals on the bottom of this wreath. And then I'm going to just do, this is kind of 2/3 of a circle, which I've drawn. You could use a saucer or something like that. I used a compass, a set of compasses, because we happen to have them. But if you don't have that, you don't need, you can just use a saucer. And I've done it in pencil, and now I'm just going to go over the whole thing, ink it all in, so that you can see me doing the drawing without me being too, what's the word, on the spot, so to speak, with the drawing, because, you know, we don't need stress, do we? Anyway, you can download this sketch if you would like to from dianeantone.com. It's free. Just help yourself, pop on over there, and you can download it for free. So yeah, so I'm just going to be putting these in. I'm using a Staedtler pigment liner. You could use a Faber-Castell. I've got those as well now. I've just got a whole bunch of stuff. Came back from our place in Spain where I'd left it before when the pandemic happened. Faber-Castell, these are artist pens, but the fine, it comes in SFMB, bold, medium, fine, super fine, I guess. So that's another alternative, but I'm not 100% sure that these are completely, I think they are waterproof. Anyway, I'm used to the Staedtler pigment liner, so that's what I'm going to use today. I find that and I'm drawing on a piece of Etival watercolour paper, £140 watercolour paper. Any good paper will do, Strathmore, Bockingford. If you want to use Arches, there's no reason why not. Yeah, one of the nice things about doing it like this, where you draw the pencil sketch first and then you come in again and ink over it before you paint it, there's something to be said for that. If you don't mind having a pen and ink rather than just pure watercolour, which of course we do quite a lot of pure watercolour, don't we? But this is quite a fun thing because you can alter it as you go along. So you do your first sketch and then you come in with the ink, and you're never going to go over all of the lines, and as you go along you think, oh, I think that would look better like that, or I won't do that bit. So anyway, it gives you a chance to what's the word? Contemporize? Extemporize? Extemporize, that's the word, I think. Make it up as you go along, in other words. This is meant to be a Christmas bauble. So try and get that sort of round. And these are going to be pine, sprigs of fir or pine. Talking about baubles, I was thinking about this bocky thing. Is anyone interested in seeing a demonstration of bocky? If so, can you put something in the comments below? It seems to be everywhere at the moment. I don't know, I can't make up my mind what I think, but I'm willing to give it a try. So what I'm doing, I've got the idea is there's a sort of woody stem going up here and taking the whole thing around the circle, which we'll paint in afterwards. And here's another glass bauble. They're interesting to paint, aren't they? There's a lot of there are some on the internet that are not very good, but it is hard to make them shiny. So we won't worry about that. You know, you can get ones that are sort of matte, can't you? We'll pretend that ours aren't shiny. And then here, I'm going to have a little bunch of mistletoe above the two lovebirds. I heard that red cardinals are very good at pairing for life. So to put them under the mistletoe seems appropriate, doesn't it? Oops, that's a bit of a funny shape, never mind. Okay, so that's that. And now what I have to do is rub out the pencil lines. This ink dries fairly quickly, so it's not too much of a problem. Getting rid of the pencil. And now we have to think about colours. Obviously the cardinal is red, so I've got Old Holland. This is not sepia, as it says on there. This is permanent red. Quinacridone gold, couldn't live without it. Black, which makes a good dark green if you mix it with quinacridone. Or you could, that might be Payne's grey, but it could be Payne's grey. Payne's grey is good for that too, if I can find it. The reason Payne's grey is good for it is because it has a slight blue tint to it, so you could use either of those. So then we will be using also a few of these colours that I've got on my tray over here. Probably maybe olive green. I don't know. As I come to the colours, I'll let you know if I pick one of those. Just check we're back in frame. There. Yeah, okay. Okay, now, question now is which brush am I going to use? I'm kind of, what's the word? Leaning towards my Kuretake water brush here. I don't know if that's a good idea or not. Maybe I will. Now, what do you call it? Mistletoe is bluish. It's a bluish green. So we want a bluish green, and I think it's possible that I might paint it with Hooker's green here with a little bit of blue in it. A little bit of blue. I'm not sure it matters which blue. Something like that. That's Hooker's green and a little bit of blue. Could be anything. Turquoise, something like that. That's probably too blue. We'll see what that dries like. And then the holly. I'm not going to try and keep within the lines here. This is going to be one of those paintings where these, what do you call them? These pen lines are just a guide. The berries, I think, are sort of yellowish colour on mistletoe, or are they white? I don't know exactly. Well, I'm going to paint them yellow anyway. Well, not yellow, Naples yellow. I don't like that colour that I did those, so I'm going to go over that with something else. It doesn't matter. I'll lift some of that out because it's too dark. And then what colour shall we do the ball? Shall we do that golden? Quinacridone gold. Leave a gap for the shine. And then holly again. This is just pop in a mixture and then lift some of it out. I'm going to use a small brush for the fir tree leaves. Make them a bit bigger, make them a bit darker. This is a size 3 draw well brush. It's a regular synthetic Japanese round. And we're going to just put the centre line in with paint a little bit there, and on the mistletoe as well. And I'm going to put a little bit of shadow on the ball. And then one of the ways I like to do twigs is I just wet the twig first, then I drop in a light colour, like a light, let's just say weak burnt umber or something like that, and I just go where I had wetted, and then I think it looks quite good if you pick up a dark green or dark brown, whatever you want, and just drop in, just go along there and just drop in little dabs and let it run. And now I'm just doing some leaves. A little bit of holly here again. Good old holly. And I didn't put any berries up there, so I'm just going to go back and put some red berries in. The red really lifts the whole thing, doesn't it? So we put some more in here. And this is meant to be, here, this is meant to be like hawthorn berries, which I know not everyone in America knows what they are, but they're just a shrub that has red berries in the winter. Okay, and then let's do this ball the same. Do this one yellow too. And then the fir branch. I'm going to come down here with this stem again. Main thing to remember when you're painting anything like this is to try to keep things irregular, which is easier said than done. And we've got some nice little leaves here. And some more red holly berries. Do these ones while I've got the red on my brush, I think. And then these a few more of the hawthorn berries. I think maybe we'll just put a few little blacks in just to, and these do need black dots on them, and sometimes just a few imaginary dots like that. I've no idea what they might be, but isn't there something? I'm sure there's something. I don't know what, but I'm sure there's something that would have blackberries. Not blackberries, but blackberries. Well, elderberries are very dark, aren't they? So we could pretend this was an elder. It just kind of lifts it a bit, doesn't it? Make these ones black then. We'll call that elderberries. I think there are still a few on the trees. And just bring the branch round underneath Mr. Cardinal's feet. Use a bit more of that green on those hollies. Okay, so now I'm going to stick with the small brush and a little bit of red with quinacridone gold for the lady. I know they're kind of beige, but artistic license will make her a bit more yellowy. And then she has a little mask. Maybe she has a little bit of reddish here, perhaps. And then I think she has sort of pinkish, yellow, pinkish, reddish, yellowish beak. We'll make it that colour, perhaps. And then Monsieur le Cardinal. course, he has to be much more dramatic. And he has his mask as well. And I suppose he has a red beak too. There we are. So, and then, having done that, we can come back with our pen and we can touch up some of the paintwork, so to speak. For example, I don't want to do that. Yeah, we can go around these berries again, make them a bit rounder if you want. Put some veins in if you want. Emphasize the eyes. That's hard to do with a brush. And so on. You can play with it for quite a while if you want. I think maybe we might want a bit more holly here. Another berry or two. I mean, you can adjust it as you go along. So there we are. One of those days today when perhaps you might not feel quite on top of your game, but nevertheless, I don't know if I can make this white pen work. That's the I think both of those are probably dead. Let me see, this one will give me a white dot for the eye. There we are. Voila, as they say. So there's one little wreath. I'm sure you can make up a much better job of it than me if you take your time, like I don't, and make a nice Christmas card, I think. Yes, probably would.